2 mics. Oh, look at that, the song's ended. I'm going to put it far away. Sure. Yeah, I completely understand.
I had a VJ mate who spilled a whole pint of beer on his laptop.
Oh no. Okay. There's been rumours of giggles at the front. We're going to wait for the giggles to enter, and then we will begin. Thank you for coming along, everybody. This is Playful Sound, the second in the series. I'm doing interviews with Canberra-based artists and then doing collaborative performances. The whole event is being recorded and then broadcast onto the internet. Embarrassing at times. Like last time, I didn't do a proper intro. We just started talking. Cool. This is Reuben Ingall. Round of applause for Reuben.
Yeah. I just got to speak a bit closer.
Alright. I'll just turn yours up a little bit. I've got a kind of whiny, a little bit louder voice than you.
Alright.
So. Okay. We're going to do that right now. Okay. Reuben, how many of you know Reuben in the audience? Quite a few of you, that's great.
It's a fair percentage.
Yeah. For those of you who don't, Reuben is a sound art, correct me at any point here. He is a sound artist. He works with all different types of sound, from microwaves, doing beautiful ambient works using a microwave, all the way through to making really intense party mashup music, which recently he played to about what looked like 500 people.
Oh, at ANU.
Yeah.
It was like...
It looked like a pumping festival.
They gave me the control to the smoke machines. They were like, here, make sure you keep pressing this.
Right, cool. Well, that sounds amazing. What else? Reuben also does a lot of mastering for other musicians. He prepares their music for mastering is like the finishing touch on a recording that you've done that really makes it sound how a record sounds when you buy it.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
Okay, so
I do a bit, but not a lot.
Yeah. I think it's becoming more frequent, it seems like.
Yeah.
Alright, so today you've brought along a whole table of things. Would you like to tell us a little bit about them? And about maybe what you do with them?
Sure. I have got my guitar over here, which was a gift, but I have come to really love it. It's got Hello Kitty on the scratch plate and it's totally pink. Yeah, it's great. I guess I started writing songs on guitar and writing lyrics and playing them in my bedroom, and then started recording and building more out of them than was there in a very kind of manual cut and paste kind of way. And then I figured out that you could do all of that kind of cutting and pasting stuff. You could do it live on the fly with the right software. Yeah.
Was there a click point where you realised I'm going to be doing this for a long time now?
don't know. I think it's always been gradually figuring out one next thing that's possible. You know, with the gear that you already have, or finding some bit of junk and
Yeah. I find your practice quite interesting because it's. I'm about to see it. I find your practice quite interesting because it sticks very rigidly to sound, but it seems to explore every possible facet, whether it's using your own instruments, creating software patches, using records, found sources and found materials, using sound recordings, field recordings, using contact microphones.
Yeah, I guess I would say that of all those different things, I'm not really a synth guy so much.
Yeah.
I've never really. It's all about recorded sound in a way, stuff that's gone into a microphone at some point, mostly.
Is that for any reason? Because I'm very much a synthesizer.
I know, yeah.
I'm quite the opposite.
I don't know, maybe when I was starting out experimenting with things, it was very difficult for me to make sounds that I was happy with synths. And so I maybe just didn't pursue it very hard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, and one of your most recent projects, I guess, the most recent project would be this release that you've done. You've just released a CD through a record label called Feral Media.
Yeah, this Sydney label that I really like.
Okay.
So that was really exciting to do that.
And what was involved in the process of that record, that particular record? Where are you at the moment as far as your music?
Yeah, that one's a funny one. Because it has a whole lot of material on it that was recorded up to 4 or 5 years ago.
Right.
And when something's been sitting on your hard drive for that long, and you come back to it and you think, oh, this was just like a throwaway, this was like a draft, in an evening to demo a particular, something I built or some kind of technology that I figured out how to use. You come back to it after a while and it's, you've got a lot of distance. And so a lot of the record is returning to older, unreleased kind of jams and offcuts and things, and using it, like sampling it basically, using it as found sound. Yeah, well, that's really interesting to go back on things like that and rework them. Because often when I make something, I just want to be done with it and I leave it and then I never really come back. The idea of resampling all the materials. It's really interesting. Yeah. Perhaps we should adjourn to the table. Sure.
Look at some of these things a little bit closer.
Sure.
How does that sound, audience?
Yeah.
Right on. This is Playful sound right now. We're just doing some things. I'll just do this. Alright. Okay, Josh, we've been told that there is going to be many slow and, what was the describing word again?
Romantic
zooms. I think the camera has turned off. It's already getting a bit too romantic. Alright. Now. There we go, it's looking pretty good. Alright. So, what was that? Was that a car outside? Or was that your computer?
No, that was me.
Okay. Now, this really confuses me. I have no idea what this is. Like, what is that? Schmorto tune.
Oh, okay. So, this bit of software is called Pure Data, or PD, and it's what they call like a patching paradigm kind of interface or environment, kind of the terms that are used. And some people describe it like a visual program.
I mean this one. I tried to want it.
Basically, it lets you create each of these little boxes is like an object that does something, or whether that's like a maths equation or passes data in a certain way, and you can then lay out your flow of information and see it visually and build it really easily.
Yeah. And how long has it been you've been working with this kind of an interface? Have you always used this?
I got switched onto Pure Data in around 2009 or 10, and then I really started gigging using this live.
Okay.
Around then, yeah.
Right. And I mean, it's just a world that I have no idea about, and it's very interesting to me. I'm wondering, can we make it do something right now?
Yeah. Okay. This is
As to
over here on the right-hand side of the screen is something that I hastily built just after we set up earlier.
yeah, I noticed you making this while I was setting up.
And because I realized I wanted it for playing with later, but I can kind of take you through roughly kind of what's going on. There's a OSC tilde object, which is an oscillator,
Right.
which just by default is like a sine wave.
Yeah, an oscillator is like it's a tone that's generated, an electronic tone.
A synthesized tone.
So I guess in some regard you are using synthesized elements.
That's true. I'm a bit of a sine wave fan.
I am
Just
too.
with
I
sine
love this.
waves.
A sine wave is very pure. There are different types of waves. There are sine waves, square waves, saw waves. And the thing about these waves are they're vibrations, and a sine wave is basically just a really perfect, smooth wave. So if you bring it really small, it creates a quite high-pitched sound, and if you bring it right out, it's a very low, deep sound. And the thing about the sine wave is, because it's a perfect wave, it creates a beautiful tone, which I think... Can we just make a sine wave?
Yeah. Well, what's going on here is there's a real bassy sine wave tone.
And it's being triggered when this thing blinks. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm feeding the oscillator. Can you guys see me waving my cursor around on the screen? Does that work if I do that? Okay. The oscillator is being fed a number which is a pitch, which is 33, which is a MIDI kind of number note, and then it's going through this box, which converts MIDI to a frequency number, which is what the oscillator wants to hear. So that's somewhere like 100 hertz or less. And over here,
It's quite
I've
a
got
satisfying sound. It's almost
pretty meditative.
Yeah.
And then this metro is a metronome, which accepts you tell it a value like 4,000, which is 4,000 milliseconds, and then every 4,000 milliseconds it's going to spit out an impulse out of its bottom outlet thing, and then I've got the rest of this little kit, which creates a ramp from full amplitude amplitude to no amplitude in volume over that time.
Okay. And do you have something that is now really, really dense, really confusing to explain, but that's sonically, I don't know, is just, the other side of the spectrum now, where it's just like lots of processes going on to create.
What this program lets you do, which is nice, is to, like this oscillator thing, that's a pre-made thing of it, but you can make and save your own objects, which are called abstractions in this terminology, and I have built a whole lot of my own little standard tools that I use for different things, like this scrubber over here, and I'll just show you what's inside that box. Which is convoluted and messy, but it is really great when you can get all of that and shove it.
But it's like
down it
it's
inside.
like putting your desktop into a folder that says desktop and then like putting that away.
Yeah. But still having it as a functional tool as part of then a larger thing, and it lets you, I don't know, make something complex and then just like make 10 of them.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah. So that's nice.
Okay. And could you give us an example of that, perhaps?
Oh yeah.
Or feel free to
do anything else that you might want to. Anything goes here.
That's
playfulsounds.com.
Let's see if I can just.
This sounds like we're in the internet. Isn't it? Can you make it a higher tone and more frequent so it sounds like more? I'm just giving you all these orders. I'm really sorry.
I might try and do a sound check over here.
Okay. All right. Intermission. How are we going in the audience? Am I feeling comfortable? Comfortable? Yep. Feeling at home? Do you need to stretch your feet while Reuben does this? 2, 3, 4. Alright. Is that through the scrubber? I missed what you were doing.
This is through the nested setter, which is over where I'm waving the cursor.
Right.
Inside there is this thing.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Which I'm going to fade out now. Which whenever I push the button down, records, and when I lift it, it starts looping that small section of sound, but also feeding that into a larger thing that's recording. And so I do that, create a larger thing, and then that loops, and so it's sort of nested.
So
and then you can plug that back into the input again.
Yeah.
Cut it some more, or whatever. It's completely sort of modular.
Yeah, it's a world that I have no idea about. And it's very interesting because another thing that I find interesting about this, some of you may not have been here last month, but we had Louise Cohan, and she's a Super 8 artist, and she does not use computers at all. And then it's quite the contrast to come in here and look at this process. I find that really interesting. But it also seems like the way you're working, even though you're on a computer, it's kind of quite physical because you're recording your voice to start with, and you've got all these other tools like these records. And do you find your process to be physical?
Well, in a way, like, I'm playing guitar and
there we go.
Singing and playing other little instruments, and around 2010, when I sort of was starting to figure this stuff out, I'd made an album of stuff, of, you know, singing and guitar and all kinds of other layers and manually cut and paste and do all that kind of thing. And then I started setting about figuring out how to do that album live with this software.
Right.
But then the next stuff that I've done has been driven by having an idea for a patch, having an idea for a way to organize sound, and then writing some chords and some lyrics.
Which will then be
So it's sort of
processed
the other
by-
way round.
Yeah, okay.
Often an idea for even for a whole sort of arrangement is in my head before I pick up the guitar.
Yeah, right.
Or it happens kind of.
So the guitar might not actually come in at all.
I've become a worse and worse guitar player over the last 5 years.
Right. But inherently better at pure data.
Maybe. When people ask me, oh, what kind of music do you make? Just chatting with workmates or whatever. So I play guitar and stuff, but really computer is my instrument.
Yeah.
That's where I do all the work.
Yeah. And do you find with live electronic music, how do you find using a laptop? Because there's been lots of debates about the kind of the removal from, I don't know, the audience and the place itself, as well as like the computer being a very personal thing. You know, you could be checking your emails while you're doing a performance. Solitaire. What are your thoughts on that kind of?
I think
that matter.
I think I would defend there being a place for laptop music. It's not really exciting to watch. I saw Tim Hecker years ago play a set, and he was just like in the dark in front of his laptop, not moving for 40 minutes, but the sound was great, and I kind of just closed my eyes, and that was excellent.
Yeah.
But no, when I play, I try not to look at the screen too much.
Sure.
I feel like if you're going to stand in front of people, maybe, especially if you're going to make like boring music, like drone music, you better kind of have some boxes and wires and look like you're doing something a bit special.
Sure. One of them being a microwave for you. Perhaps you could. Were you using? I've seen your performance, your microwave drone ritual performance, and it's quite lovely actually. It's quite beautiful, and the computer is being used, but it's hidden behind a microwave, which you're cooking a pie in.
I
on
basically
the lowest setting for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Please tell the people in the audience about that.
Yeah, for that set, I just used this little sort of MIDI controller and set up a Ableton Live session actually with and mapped a whole bunch of controls so that I basically had a standard palette of tools, loopers and wet dry knobs for reverb and whatnot, and then I would kind of improv from there with the sounds of the microwave all mic'd up.
How are you collecting the sounds from the microwave?
I have got a couple of different mics kind of lying on the floor pointed at it, but as well as that, I used it was the first contact mic that I ever kind of made.
Has anyone
maybe like 10 years ago?
Right, it's still going.
And I mounted it it's probably because I mounted it inside this old like trackball mouse. Remember when mice used to have little balls in it? Anyway, the mouse had carked it, so took the ball out and
Yep.
and put the little piece in there. It kind of just seemed to be perfect fit. Stuck
Yeah,
it in
that's
there,
great.
and then drilled a hole in the top of the mouse to mount a little jack socket. And so it was always good. I used to play with a couple of guys in a kind of a noise band type thing, and it was great to, you'd have a guitar lead basically plugged into this mouse that you were moving around the table, and it was going. People would be looking at you going, "What is even going on? Look at that mouse."
Yeah. Yeah. I lost my train of thought because I was pointing at
Sweet.
But no, for those of you who don't know what a contact microphone is, a contact microphone is basically a piece of metal. It's like it's a piezo disc, is that right?
Yeah, it's got piezoelectric crystals in it, I think.
Right. And they use them often on doorbells. Is that right?
Yeah. If you send an electric signal to it, it will vibrate, and depending on the voltage you'll create it, or the physical properties of it, the size of it, you'll get a tone. But it works the other way. Like it can work as a speaker, like a buzzer, or a microphone.
In reverse.
You can take those wires and plug them into your mixer and get sound from it. Yeah.
And often the sound, do you have like a really typical contact microphone recording that we could listen to? It's kind of like getting underneath the skin of something. So you can put it on a one really kind of classic contact microphone thing is putting it on like a long fence line, and you can hear the vibrations of the fence.
It's basically, it's like hearing, maybe if you'd lost a lot of your hearing and you can just hear the bass sounds. That's kind of what you hear.
Yeah.
If you have your contact mic and you hold it like where this mic is and yell, you don't get much volume. But if you press it against your throat, then you can hear the tones. Yeah,
great.
So they're good for experimenting.
That's right. And I think we should take this time for all of you to stand up and perhaps have a drink. And we're going to have a little break right now.
Cool.
And when you come back, we'll continue.
Sounds good.
We're going to commercial break right now. Sponsored by Red Bull.